Hello, everyone, and welcome to Publishers Behaving Badly. It's not you, it's them. We are the StoryForge team. You can find us at storyforge.com. And Yashie is our rant master for today. I'm going to hand this over to you.
Okay, so I'm sure you guys have been looking through things recently online, and there was like an author named KC Crowne who recently published a book called Dark Obsessions. And if you don't know, KC Crowne, according to our website, is a romance author who is an international best-selling author and Amazon top 10 bestseller. I think on her Amazon it said top 8, but you know. But back to Obsessions. There was a point where in chapter 2 she leaves in this ChatGPT prompt that's kind of like serving as proof for our readers, or not really our readers, but her readers, that she's using AI to help write her book. And like when the author was confronted about it by her readers, she used pretty much her PA's account, and she was explaining that she's only using AI to help with minor edits, not rewrite passages. It's kind of got to the point where readers are kind of claiming that it's likely false, and they also say that her apology was AI written.
Do
I
you
don't.
have the prompt that was stuck in there real quick? Because it definitely did not sound like a, hey, fix
I
my grammar. It was like, punch this up for
Yeah.
me.
I do. I remember that I've sent it. Oh,
Well, and I feel like if you're like, hey AI, can you correct this grammar? It's not the same as, hey AI, can you write my book?
Hmm.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
here's what it says. Certainly, here's an enhanced version of your passage, making Elena more relatable and interjecting additional humor while providing a brief, sexy description of Gregory.
That
Changes are
is full
highlighted in
on
bold for
writing the
clear.
whole thing.
I'm sorry.
That is enhancing,
Hold on
adding
a second.
Although,
humor,
could
What?
providing sexy description. What
Why
else
are
did it
we
say?
asking the robot
how
to provide
Yeah.
sexy
How are you a
descriptions?
romance author, but you have to have the robot provide the sexy description?
That is so true.
Like
Just
Why
that's
talk
are you
about
your
like
writing romance in
the
the
that's
first
your
chiseled
place?
job.
abs and the throbbing member. Like you're good.
Like
It's fine.
that's your job. Don't ask the robot to do that. Like, hello?
I mean, you have to get back to it. But like, how many books has she written? And I mean, I want to steal your thunder and throw off your flow, but I know you were going to get into that.
So in 2023, she wrote about 17 books, and it is very consistent. So I think she started, or at least with this pen name, she started in 2018, and she was consistently hitting double digits. And honestly, it's insane, even with ghostwriters aiding, which she claims to have had. It's really not something that happens often. I
But
don't,
didn't we figure out she had written like one year she wrote like almost 30 books or something like that?
yeah, like it, I think it was 23. 23 books she wrote, but it's like, how do you get that many books in a year?
Now we
There's
know.
only 12 months. And like you could say that, oh, I've been writing since before AI. That's great. Um, that doesn't explain much.
Yeah.
As to AI has been bursting since like 2018, or at least Gen AI. So,
Yeah, the fact that it's more talked about right now doesn't mean that it didn't exist way before.
Yeah.
It was more widely known. And
exactly.
Well, and I think like, you could also make the argument, well, oh, I've had these stories like on the back burner, I just finished them,
the
is
act
still
of
kind of
writing, it
weak.
still takes time.
Time.
Yeah.
And like,
Exactly.
Even if you don't get blocked ever, and the only thing that you do it's right and not eat or I don't know, sleep or do human things, it's still a
Yeah.
lot of things.
Well,
hmm
and then I mean, hopefully maybe someone out there can correct me if I'm wrong, but like even if you hire a ghostwriter, like that costs a lot of money. And like how much are
Hmm.
you making from
Yeah.
these 99-cent $2 ebooks on Amazon? Like where's that money coming from? And also I just did a quick search. ChatGPT was released to the public in 22. So
Mhm.
that kind of lines up, I believe, with your timeline of suddenly there's that big burst of, hey, here's a ton more books.
I do know that I went down a rabbit hole
We
and
love rabbit
said
holes.
it was a fun rabbit hole, but hear me out. So there's a conspiracy theory going out on Reddit that KC Crowne might actually not be a person.
Dun, dun,
Um,
dun.
um, or like she was a person, but she might be multiple people right now publishing under the same, pen name. And that might explain why there's so many books. Even so, like, they kind of justify their claims with saying, oh, if you look at her website, there's literally nothing on her. There's not a picture of her. I think on her Facebook, there's like one image of her, and she looks like this AI generated model.
Hmm.
And people are just kind of like, well, when you look at a writer's website, you're supposed to know that writer. All there is like her books, brief about her, and then that's it.
That's really interesting because I have 2 points to make. When I took my creative capstone class at community college, we had to make writers' websites. And one of the biggest things was, hey, you need to have your photo. You need to have an artist statement. Who are you? What are you doing? And these need to be, and the website needs to feel personal. Second of all, even if it is multiple people, I don't know if any of you are aware of the Warrior Cat series, but Aaron Hunter is multiple people. And sure, they've put out a lot of books, but they weren't 23 in one year kind of lot of books. So I feel like the argument that it's multiple people is still like really flimsy.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think that's on their website. It says like she resides in the peaceful countryside of Colorado with her husband and two energetic boys. She's not juggling sports practices and Costco runs. You'll find her immersed in crafting her next romance novel. So she has two kids running sports practices. Like one of my best friends has two kids. One of them is in travel hockey. We managed to actually hang out for the first time in like 7 months, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's just if you have that much to do, like where are where do you find the time to write these books?
Yeah.
We even like surveyed our users like one time, like what is what do like what's like an average sitting, like how many words you produce, and like somewhere
Hmm.
between like 500 and like 1,000 was like an average answer. So it's like where's this woman getting her time? Like it just makes no sense.
Because the
Beatrice,
AI
welcome back.
has it.
Yeah.
The AI has
The AI is
like,
like, oh, well, here, you need to go to soccer practice. I'll finish this next page for you. Like, it's one of those things where, like, even if you're looking at like writing challenges that take place over a month, most people still aren't like sitting down and producing good stuff. So, like, when I did a book in a month and I wrote 50,000 words, sure, I had a session that was about an hour long and I got 2,000 words in. However, most of those words were not great. I had to go back and edit and improve those things. So you're not like, I don't know if readers completely understand the time that it takes, not only to put 1,000 words on the page and then make those 1,000 words actually mean something important to the story and the plot and character, etc. So sure, if she, let's just make up some numbers here. If it takes her like 2 months to write a book, that means you're doing all of the writing and the editing and the promotion and all of that other stuff in 2 months. That is like just an unreasonable time frame for there not to be some sort of AI or other people involved.
I feel like the most important part of it is how consistent it is. Because I do think that it is possible to have a very good finished product in under a month, especially if it's a short novella, if it's a like if you're working within tropes that you're very familiar with, within a genre that you're very familiar with, and like all of those things. I have plenty of friends that do that, that they just only write one month of the year, and it's like that's the book or something. And I do think that it's doable and that it's important to like make people understand that if an author is able to churn out books in a shorter period of time, that doesn't indicate AI. However, I believe that the strong consistency of every single time, every year, every like all of the books, no matter what, being that short time frame plus with the added of the ChatGPT thing discovered on it with the added on like other things is what makes it alarming. Because I did see whenever this thing happened, and I think another one that was very similar that was on the Spanish sphere, someone that was churning out
Mhm.
books real
Mhm.
real quick. People were immediately accusing AI. Everyone that had like books finished at a fast timeline, and some of these were novelettes that were 20,000 words,
Hmm.
and which is something that is way more doable. But with all of these things, even before AI existed, whenever someone does something that's bad, unfortunately, it does affect everyone else that is in the
Yeah.
industry. And this is once again creating witch hunts
Hmm.
towards authors that maybe I don't know, can
Yeah.
write a book in 2 months. So it's really important to make that clarification and just make
Yeah.
sure that multiple things align before you're going to
Yeah.
accuse a
I
person.
mean, I think it's very different if it's someone who like this is their full-time job. Like you're
Exactly.
probably gonna have more time. Like, Stephen King.
That's
That's all he
exactly, I was
does.
like, I'm really
Um,
curious, how many books does he put out in a year? It is
Not
all
very
he
many.
does, but he doesn't put out that many. I want to see. I'm like really curious.
It's roughly
Um,
about 1 to 2 a year. I know because my wife is a huge Stephen King fan.
my
But
Yeah,
mother,
your
my
wife has
mother
great
loves Stephen
taste.
she
King.
does. So I actually did some quick math. Um, so let's say an average book, let's say 80,000 words. That's kind of on the shorter end. The average word per minute typing for adults is technically around 40, but on the upper echelon of people who type regularly is between 60 and 80. So she's able to type 70 words per minute, an 80,000 word book is going to take roughly 19 hours to write. So that
How
is almost
luck
1 day.
Yeah.
how long are her books? Because like they could be really short too. Because also there's this thing with AI. The AI is very bad at maintaining consistency.
Hmm.
So it would make sense if the books are AI generated, or at least mostly AI
Mhm.
generated, if they are on the short end.
Yeah.
Because it's not sustainable for like Gen AI to be doing longer chunks of things.
I mean, I would assume that there is some actual human aspect to these books, but not a
Probably.
lot.
There has to
Um,
be, because otherwise the books would be inconsistent, like we're
mhm.
saying. I feel like when I read things written by AI, I've seen poems written by AI, and the person asks multiple times, continue the story or the poem.
Yeah.
And less of the detail gets carried over. Now, if you had changed that poem to keep the consistency, then, that would be, a human involved in it. But if the story is made up by AI, that's crazy. Also, Stephen King's average is 2 to 3 books, but that is an average of all of his
Yeah.
time.
And that man also has professional editors that work for him. I
Yes.
assume there are people
Yes.
out there who do nothing but work for Stephen King.
Yes.
Whereas even someone who is in the Amazon top 10 on ebooks who charges, I actually have the website up, $5 a book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I have to imagine that you're losing some of that to Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you're doing $5, you're getting probably, let's say, $3 back. I mean, I don't know how many copies have sold, but like, are you doing your own editing? Are you paying an editor? Like a really good. You're clearly not paying an editor because an editor would have
Mm-hmm.
called the ChatGPT
Me
prompt.
too. Yeah.
That's true.
That's what I was thinking. Well, and you lose quite a bit to Amazon. It's something that I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but it had been discussed in a writing circle I'm in before. You lose like a good chunk of that money to Amazon unless you have like specific deals with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, who didn't catch the ChatGPT prompt?
That's why I think
How
it's
many
That
so.
people
book
looked over this book?
was it probably not a lot. She probably just churned it out. It's a first draft kind of thing. We are assuming that the books are good. Like we don't
No,
have to
no.
assume that the books are good. Maybe she just like
Hold
word
on.
vomits
Hold on.
with ChatGPT.
I'm gonna read you. God, this so much.
No,
My sister's
please.
gorgeous best friend and her little boy are in serious trouble. Now I can't rest until I know the two of them are safe. I'm not afraid to show those scum they never should have set foot on these mountains. My mountains. Combat may have left me broken, but Piper's surprise return woke my passion for life again. Now men with a death wish want to cause her and her little boy harm. Not on my damn watch. They picked the
That is
wrong family to mess with, and
oh
I'll
my
make
God.
them wish they never had.
Please.
That is the type of male character that reassures me over the fact that I do not like men
Oh,
fully.
this is clearly. I mean, the cover is called Junior for the Mountain Man, and it's this what appears to be a naked man with like a it looks like a marine tattoo on one pack and like an eagle on the other, holding a baby on his lap, and they both appear to be naked, which makes me kind of uncomfortable.
I'm trying
I
to find the length of this books. I was looking into, she has a series
I'm
that
pretty
is
sure you can find
called
them on Amazon that would tell you, but I
Silver
refuse to
Fox
have this in
Daddies.
my Amazon lists.
Yeah,
Silver
yeah, yeah.
Fox
but
Daddies. It's 19 books. So I would be very curious if this is an actual series to see how consistent are the books with themselves because it's 19 and the other one, Mountain Meadow Liberty, is like 21. Their series are very, very long,
Hmm.
like stands of books. Are they a series just because they're talking touching on the same topic? Because they are kind of loosely happening in the same, I don't know, city or something? Or
Hmm.
is it something that is chronological?
I don't know,
Because I
Yeah.
but
think that would give like an indication.
The AI generated man who's on everyone has zero consistency. Like the tattoos are all over the place. This one,
Ah,
man, this man
yes.
looks like he might have tattoos based off the rocks, like the Samoan arm.
I will
oh
This
no.
man
sacrifice
has like a
myself and look for it on
butterfly wing,
Amazon.
Please sacrifice yourself.
and they're
Another
all like
interesting.
shirtless and holding babies, which really creeps
I
me
am
out.
very
That's
concerned.
so
It makes
weird.
me, those types of covers make me feel very
Yeah.
uncomfortable, to be
Yeah.
honest. In my personal preference is
Oh, me
definitely
too.
not that. I would not, I
Although
cannot.
I might not be the market for those books.
Oh yeah, definitely
I
we're not
Me
the
neither.
market.
I'm not the market for those books. But like if I want a romance story, it has to be wholesome. I don't need a shirtless man telling me that there are weird people on his mountain
Yeah.
while he's
I
holding a baby.
Sorry.
Okay, I found 296 pages in one of them. So it's not really
Okay.
I
long
mean,
at
your average
all.
novel is
It's a
like
very
300-ish.
300. Yep.
So,
Yeah.
I
oh.
mean, I'd say at least 80,000, if not more words. But sorry,
Yeah.
Yashi, you were trying to take us further down the rabbit hole, and we got derailed by a side
Oh,
rabbit hole.
I'm so sorry,
Oh my
but
God,
like
this one's called
there
Boss
was
Daddy.
oh God. There was another thing where there was more proof on her using AI, and there was another author that she ripped her infor not information, but inspiration from,
Hmm.
and it seemed so very like it was so close to what was originally like written by another like, you
Mm.
know.
Yeah.
So I
It's
don't
like
know
too
how to say it.
derivative.
Yeah, I mean, there's a
Yeah.
fine line of being inspired and stealing inspiration. Like,
Yeah.
since we're on the topic, 50 Shades of Grey was inspired by Twilight. That's inspiration. Like, there's no vampires, well, I assume there's no vampires and werewolves running around. I have
There's
read
no
none
vampires or
of
werewolves,
those.
I can confirm.
Um, so like inspired by fine. But if it was literally the exact same concept and premise and characters, like that's stealing inspiration. And it's like that is I was gonna say it's a fine line to walk, but no, it's not. That's
No.
a
It's
very
plagiarism.
fat
Yeah.
fucking line. So
Yeah.
Okay, like as a kid, I would like make up stories based on the things I was watching that
Mhm.
weren't necessarily fanfic. But am I gonna make money off of those things? No. I'm revamping characters that I've made before and completely changing them. But like, you know, I'm not gonna like take my, um, my like based off of this TV show thing I made as a kid and just assume I can use it without plagiarism being there. I think there's a fine distinction between like even just personal use, like, oh, I'm gonna share this with my friends, and oh, I'm gonna make money off it.
Would you guys like to hear the excerpts that sound very similar?
Yeah, I
yes,
was gonna
Yeah,
say
yeah,
that
let's hear it.
always
that's
yes.
So,
probably a good indication.
so this is a book called Crow by Ashley Zavrelli. I so sorry if I butcher that. There's a few things that are like blotted out, but here's what's similar in hers versus KC Crowne's. A missing friend. I had a plan. Just wanted a soldier, someone I could flirt, I think it says, and that's when Lachlan Crow noticed me, blah blah blah. In Casey Crowns, in I it's called Irish King. It says I had a plan, find a soldier, flirt my way in the door, and goes on like that. It was literally word for word, just missing out the blotted text.
Yeah.
So it's like it's plagiarism, it's AI usage. There's so much around this author, and I'm somehow convinced that AI is kind of exposing a deeper dis or issue within the publishing industry in a sense.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
We're gonna start with this thing called author inadequacy, because I always feel it. Or I call it that. It's where like these smaller, lesser known authors feel like there's some sort of bridge between them and bestsellers, and they are constantly trying to kind of fill that gap between them. So, in order to do so, they feel like they need to use AI to help them get to the skill of other authors.
What
I
about
don't
just
agree with it.
the sheer amount of like publishing? Does that factor in too?
Yeah, publishing speed, because I don't know if you guys are constantly talking to authors. You are, but because we're a company,
I mean,
but
Wait, we're talking to each other. We're all authors, so I
we're a
would assume
platform.
yes.
We're
we're
a
a
platform by
platform, and
authors
we
for
li
authors.
oh,
But I
we
know what
literally
you
talk to
No,
each
mean.
but
other each
authors
It's
day.
outside of StoryForge, and I do. Like, I
Yeah.
get it. I get
it's like you
Yeah.
haven't read our marketing material, Yashi.
Yeah, you're right. No, I'm kidding.
We gotta do a better job.
Dang.
No.
No, but sorry, carry on.
But a lot of authors, when they're reassuring, these smaller authors are saying like, "Oh, you need to publish like 5 books in order to, in X amount of time in order to be seen or relevant." And it's just like, but maybe I only have 1 book in me. Maybe I can't, push out another 4 books in a series, or, you know, publishers don't even want a series sometimes. So it's like, how am I going to do this? What I'm pouring my heart and soul. Does it make sense? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
No, it can
oh,
be
go.
really hard.
Yeah, it is. And I honestly feel for a lot of these authors who feel like they're not able to become a bestseller. I mean, obviously, we're trying to fix that at StoryForge. And
But this isn't about marketing StoryForge, though. Please go to storyforge.com. Use promotional code podcast.
No,
But
it is a big problem. Like I know as someone who both has interest in breaking into self-publishing and actual publishing, in various different ways, it's like both now feel very intimidating. I hear so many people who are self-published like, "Oh, it was so easy for me to get in." But they got in how many years ago when the market wasn't saturated. And so there's that problem of now we have both markets, like traditional publishing and self-publishing are starting to get very saturated. And where does that leave the people who only have time to put into 1 book at a time? Or only really have 1 book in them and that's all they want to write.
yeah, and I don't. This is the funny thing that came upon my research. It is called publishing addiction. It's it's a I won't say it's like a full-on theory or a full-on thing, but if you think about it, publishing could be very addicting in a sense. So when you push 1 book, there's like genuine rush when you get the validation or approval that you've always been looking for when it comes to, putting out your life's
Yeah.
work. In using AI, you're able to keep up that momentum and satiate the urge and, so it's just like if I use something to speed up my process, right? I will get more validation, I will get more approval, everyone will love me. That's not how that works.
No.
I can talk about that whole I forgot the author used such a good way, a good word to explain it, Yashie. What was it? Inadequacy?
Hmm.
Yeah.
The author from an inside perspective of an author that has been working her entire life publishing stuff and felt very inadequate the entire time. And it is something that it's obviously like a bigger issue that we're not touching upon right now, but I can see how AI is just being one of the things that authors are doing just to feel relevant. It is a rush of dopamine, and I saw it in my circles, and I saw it in myself, and I have PTSD from that. Fun fact that, especially because like you see people that maybe have connections or like they were already famous or like whatever, like pushing things out. You try as an author to do the thing that works. That took me, for example, into researching tropes and just trying to Frankenstein books that had all the famous tropes so I could be relevant. Or doing things like feeling forced, like a lot of, and like I'm not afraid to admit it. Part of the rewriting that I did on the book that I'm going to self-publish now is like taking out a lot of like not safe for work, very graphic sex scenes, or at least giving them a function because as an
Mhm.
author, I felt pushed by my audience that the only way that they would be engaged with the book was to have graphic, like not safe for work scenes. And it's something that it didn't even come from the outside.
Yeah.
I had people writing me and being like, why are you not describing this more kind of thing. So I do feel like that is, again, that's why it's like such a bigger and underlying issue, but I definitely see how someone feeling inadequate, they get all of this like bombarding of things to them constantly saying, oh, you have to write faster, you have to write like how this person writes, you have to have a better use of all of this thing, like all the writing tips, all of the things. And that's so like sometimes things are like humanely like impossible. And I have seen a lot of authors that are not like that are very unaware of everything, that they just starting and try to do things, and they kind of just us like, hey, I don't know how to describe A, V, and C. Can I use ChatGPT for that for my book? And then people, instead of like taking the time and explaining to them why that is not going to help them grow as an author, what tips and how they can like learn how to describe
Mm.
things better and all of that, they just attack them. They say you're a piece of shit because it's stealing our books, instead of addressing the real issue, which is like this person needs help
Yeah.
and the help is not being provided to them for this is not about KC Crowne, by the way. This is just me talking about the whole author inadequacy thing because it concerns me a lot that there might be people that think that this is the answer and no one is there to guide them and be like, no, 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 this is going to be so much worse in the end for you because you're not going to learn anything. And instead, they just attack, they close off, and then they just do the thing they were going to do anyway because no one is helping.
Yeah.
So
That's a really big thing. I know that like in, myself included, I can vouch for that in the inadequacy part. When I started writing as a sex repulsed asexual writer, um, I had critique on my book to include more of the sexual scenes in my book. And the entire purpose of not showing them is because the character is blacking out during those scenes. And like that's the important part. And so people missing that was huge. Second of all, I don't know how to describe those things. And I think if I didn't already have kind of the stance of, oh, AI is not going to help me, I might have actually sought out ChatGPT for those types of issues. And so when I speak to writers who are like, hey, should I use ChatGPT for this? My initial reaction is definitely no, don't do it. But it's not your bad. It's, hey, what are you looking for and how can I help you find that rather than like, oh, you're bad for thinking, even possibly having the thought of ChatGPT. It's like, no. So instead of using ChatGPT, what websites can I find for you? Can I help you? Is this something I have experience with? Do I know somebody who can help you with this? And I think it's super, super important to actually speak with other writers and direct writers who need help to other writers because that is how we get better, even as people in general.
Yeah.
So Here's a question real quick. And we talked about this in our other series with Glenn Weatherhead from the Creative Writing Wizard, which recommend checking out. Um, do you think authors are starting to turn to ChatGPT to punch up the scenes, do the editing, whatever, because it's so much more, you have to market your book nonstop, book talk, threads, Instagram, X, like you have to spend so much more time marketing than you almost do writing. Does do you think that has started to push people towards Chat GPT just because it's more efficient?
Isn't that a fancier way of saying that we're kind of noticing that the publishing industry is just becoming incredibly unhealthy for authors in a sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
Yes.
it's getting toxic. Like, yes, they do have to market themselves better, and they're probably spending more time marketing than they are writing because they need to find their niche or their groups of readers, and it's almost painful to watch because it's like you could see them struggling to keep up. Like a bunch of my friends, they will post something about their stories, and the only time they'd do well with the algorithm is when people have negative things to say.
That's
It's
fucked up.
yeah.
It's really bad. No, I feel the same way. Like I have come to terms with the fact that my book, whenever I do publish it, is not going to be a first bestseller. I don't care how it gets published. I have personally come to accept that what I want out of my audience is people who are interested in the story. If that's 10 people who buy my book, then I am happy because I would much rather market my book on like honesty rather than getting, hate on Instagram or social media in general. Because it's so fucked up to have to get, attention from your book in a negative light because nobody wants to hear that. You know, no one needs that negativity to be a better writer. It just doesn't help literally anyone.
And Bea, you mentioned earlier that you were trying to keep up with trends and what have you. A lot of what I've noticed now is that a lot of authors are trying to break out of those trends and be them, but they're not getting the attention that they deserve, and they're just kind of struggling at this point. Like, I'm not even writing anything with some major tropes that most people are looking into, and I'm just kind of like, well, I want to write this because it's me, but me is not going to sell the amount of books I want to, put out. It's like, my life's work, not going to be noticed. Oh well.
That is something, like I said, was really hard for me to come
Yeah.
to terms with. And I think the only reason that I am okay with my life's work not becoming a bestseller is because I have an extremely supportive group of people in my life who genuinely want to see me succeed. And to them, success is getting it published and getting readers
Yeah.
rather than making $1 million. Would I love to be a full-time writer like Stephen King? Oh, absolutely. But at the same time, I know that right now that is not a reasonable goal to have. So I am going to kind of shoot for it. But if I hit a different target and I'm still happy with my life, that's great. However, I'm also aware that myself won't sell my book. And it sucks to have to kind of find the balance between being honest and marketing myself.
I do want to, from an author that actually wants to get rich from her books, and I have that plan. I also want to give an advice to people that are kind of like on that same boat because I think it's important that we touch upon like everything. And it's that it's probably going to be rougher, but it doesn't mean that it's absolutely impossible, but also that it's okay. Like, I believe that it's fully okay to have way different goals whenever you are creating any type of art. And you shouldn't be seen as less or like frowned upon if you have a goal that doesn't align with the goal of the person that you're talking to, for example. And it goes back to these authors that it's like, hey, I do want to be famous. I want to be famous. Like everyone that knows me knows I am the definition of like histrionic. That's just the part of who I am. And I think a lot of authors that fall under using like having these bad practices on stuff and artists in general like with that fall on their bad practices is because of the sheer desperation, and it's something that I personally have dealt with a lot. The sheer desperation of wanting the approval constantly by everyone and not having enough resources and knowing how to deal with this. But it's okay to want that approval. I think that it's like if that's your goal, if you want to one day become like Stephen King, that is fine. And if not, that is also fine. But there are resources and there are ways that you can do it that not only is going to benefit you more in your internal growth, but it's also going to be more sustainable. And I cannot emphasize this enough. Using AI for writing is not sustainable, period. It's not sustainable in what we were talking about for like the consistency, stories, and everything. But you as an author, especially if it's people out there that are wanting to churn out things faster and do publicity and focus on marketing and all of those things, is not something that is going to last. And then it's going to be worse because it can affect your career. And if you don't know where the resources are, like you get bro, you can even email us. Email me, Beatrice at storyforge.com. I was going to say .com. I'm sorry, Spanish slip. I will find the resources for you because I believe in people wanting to grow. And it's just so frustrating whenever they think that these bad things is what's going to help them. And because at the end of the day, they have to like retire from writing because they were found out to be plagiarizing. And maybe the person had a passion for writing and they were just misguided. And this is me getting worked up. I'm so sorry.
All right. So I think to just kind of summarize everything we talked about here, um, the resources that you would technically use ChatGPT for and other AIs are out there. Just ask. The people who see the asks, don't be dicks. Actually help. Just don't yell at them for asking by AI. Give them the resources they need. The amount of books you publish does not equate to your worth as an author. Um, and how fast you publish them does not equate to your worth as an author. I mean, look at was it Patrick Rothfuss who does the Wind Killer Chronicles, I believe it is. People have been waiting on book 3 for that like
The
15
name of
years.
the name of the wind.
Yeah, that. Regardless,
George R. R. Martin.
it's how fast you produce and how many you produce does not equate to your worth as an author. It's more about what you produce. Are you proud of what you produced? Doesn't mean something to you. Fair?
That's
I love
very
Okay.
that.
important.
Okay. Well, I think at that we're going to wrap it up. So just remember, the publishing industry, it's not you, it's
It's
them.
them.
We'll see you at the forge.